stormed into the small room, her fists clenched so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. Her face was pasted with rage, raw, unforgiving, barely held in check. Her breath came out in short bursts as she stood in the center, staring at the too neat space that now felt like a cage. A groan tore from her throat, frustration, pain, and betrayal all tangled into one, and she snapped. With one sweep of her arm, the neatly stacked books on the shelf crashed to the floor. A glass rolled off the table and shattered. She kicked the wooden stool hard enough that it toppled with a dull thud, echoing in the tiny room. Her body shook, her chest heaving, her heart screaming for release. Tears burned in her eyes as the cruel words of her friends from earlier played on repeat inside her mind like a broken record. She acted so humble, but look at her now. Leaked videos, dirty pictures. What a joke. You never even let me touch you. Guess what? Now everyone will see you anyway. Her ex voice had been cold, calculated, then her mother's voice. You have disgraced us. You have dragged our name through the mud. You are not the daughter we raised. You are ashamed. This is what you deserve. A voiceless servant husband to match your ruined name. The one she thought would protect her broke her to the core. She fell to her knees sobbing, her hands clawing at her hair as if she could pull the voices out. Shut up, she screamed to the invisible echoes, her voice cracking in despair. That's when she noticed movement. Ken stood by the door, silent and unmoving, his wide, gentle eyes watching her with an unreadable expression. He didn't interrupt, he didn't flinch at her anger, but his lips pressed into a thin line, and she saw how his fingers trembled slightly by his sides. He watched her cry, his own jaw tightening when she scratched her head harshly, shaking like a flame about to burn out. He bit his lower lip, hesitating. Then she groaned, clutching the right side of her head as a migraine crashed into her like a tidal wave. Damn it, she hissed, her breath coming in slow, shallow bursts. In an instant, he turned and disappeared. I barely had time to process before he returned, panting slightly, holding a glass of water and a strip of tablets in his hand. He stepped toward her cautiously, kneeling in front of her without a word. He extended them with both hands, no force, no expectation. Ryan looked at him through her tearful lashes, still hiccuping from the sobs. Her eyes narrowed, not in suspicion but confusion. Why was he being so careful? Tim slowly set the water ripples down in front of her and lowered his head, eyes focused on the floor. Then he pulled out his phone and typed something. His hands trembled slightly as he turned the screen toward her. I know you feel vulnerable, and that's fair enough. I'm sorry. I'm just a slave to your family. I couldn't say no to this marriage, but I promise I'll never hurt you or make you uncomfortable. Please take the pills. Your headache will worsen. Ryan's chest rose and fell sharply. She stared at the words. There was no pity, no judgment, just understanding. She glanced at him. His head remained bowed, respectful, almost apologetic for even existing near her. She reached for the pills, took them in one go, and chased them with the water. Then she sat silently, watching as he began to clean the mess she had made. He didn't ask why, he didn't sigh or make a sound, just quietly picked up the shattered glass, the scattered books, the fallen stool, piece by piece. He moved with practiced grace, like he was used to fixing what others had broken. She watched him, her jaw clenched. This man had been in her house for years, quite obedient. She remembered her mother saying his father had given him away like some collateral for a loan he could never repay. Him, the invisible helper, the servant boy, now her husband. Anne closed her eyes and exhaled shakily. Her voice came out soft but strong. Him, he froze. Slowly, he turned, his expression startled. It was the first time he had ever heard her say his name. Where's the washroom? He pointed wordlessly toward the small door tucked into the corner. She nodded, biting the inside of her cheek, and walked inside. When she came out a while later, she was changed into her soft grey pajamas. Her hair brushed back, her face clean. She looked human again, still tired but less broken. Tim was at the foot of the bed, smoothing out the blanket, fluffing the pillow like it was a royal bed. She paused at the sight of it. He was preparing it for her. When he noticed her standing there, he quickly stepped back and motioned for her to lie down. She hesitated only a moment before walking over and slipping under the covers. Then, as quietly as he had entered, he walked over to the switch, turned off the lights, and laid himself down on the floor beside the bed, with only a thin blanket covering him. Ryan lay stiff on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The room was filled with silence, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was still gentle. Her eyes shifted to his back, curled slightly, facing away from her. He didn't try to speak, didn't try to touch her, didn't even breathe too loudly. And somehow, the silence comforted her. Her anger began to dissolve. Not because she forgot what had been said, not because the pain was gone, But because in this quiet room, she didn't feel judged. She didn't feel watched. She felt safe. Tim didn't try to fix her. He simply stayed. She bit her bottom lip, tears threatening again. Not from hurt this time, but guilt. Because of her, he was here, in this forced marriage. On the floor, a prisoner in a new kind of cage. Tim, she whispered into the darkness. He didn't move, but she saw his shoulder shift slightly, listening. I'm sorry for everything. A moment passed before she saw his hand move, phone glowing again in the shadows. Don't be, it's not your fault. I'm okay. Her lips twitched into the faintest smile. You're not okay, Tim, she said softly. But thank you for pretending to be. I paused, then another message. You're strong, I saw it today. You didn't deserve any of it, but you're still standing. There's strength. She stared at the words, her throat tightening. He didn't say she was pure or innocent or kind. He didn't try to erase her past. He acknowledged her pain, and somehow that meant everything. How did you know about my migraine? She murmured. He typed and raised his phone again. I was responsible to bring your medicine. She just stared in darkness and then whispered, Good night, Tim. For a moment he didn't respond. Then slowly he typed, Good night. Two souls, two strangers, one room, one quiet understanding. Neither reaching out, but both slowly finding the warmth in the silence. Few days later, a few days had passed since the storm. The night wind broke down and Tim simply stayed. Since then something had changed in the air between them. No words were exchanged, not directly, but actions those were louder. Every morning when Wine woke up, the room was quiet, the bed beside her neatly folded. Tim was already gone, but sticky notes were everywhere. One on the mirror, don't forget your coffee. It's in the thermos. It's sweet, just how you like it. On the fridge, the fruit's washed, you need vitamins. On the front door, don't open to strangers, I'll be back by 7. It was a different kind of care, silent, subtle, but so sincere that it left her breathless every time. Wine had spent her entire life thinking people only looked at her to judge or use her. But then he saw her, and he did so without looking down on her. She had expected disgust after everything, but his eyes held none, just that same softness, that steady light. She learned he had been studying cybersecurity in cigarette. His professor believed in him and was now helping him lay the groundwork to open a firm. That night, she had quietly whispered, You're brilliant, Tim. His ears had turned red. These days, Wine had begun learning sign language on her own, watching videos late at night, practicing in front of the mirror. She wanted to understand him, really understand him. She also found an online job, digital content editor. Nothing huge, but it helped her feel like she had control. Now Tim sat cross-legged on the floor with his laptop open. He was focused, brows furrowed, typing rapidly. Wine sat on the bed, pretending to read, stealing glances at him. The doorbell rang. Tim stiffly stood up. I got it. Wine said, placing her book aside. You keep working. He hesitated but nodded, giving her a thankful glance. She padded barefoot to the door and opened it, only to come face to face with the two people she least wanted to see, her mother and Zeke. Her breath caught. Her face instantly hardened. She gripped the door, ready to slam it, but her mother quickly stepped forward. Wine, wait. She didn't move. What do you want? Her brother's eyes scanned her coldly head to toe. You have lost weight. What's he feeding you, scraps? Her mother scoffed. My God, look at you. Your skin. Are you even moisturizing? What has that mute boy done to you? Wine's jaw locked. I'm fine. Leave. But they were already stepping inside. Zeke brushed past her like it was his house. I said leave. Don't make a scene, her mother snapped. You think you're someone now, living in the shack with that thing? Just then Tim stepped out, sensing the tension. He came to her side quietly, his presence grounding her. Zeke sneered. Is this how you are taking care of my sister? Tim opened his mouth slightly as if to speak but couldn't. He signed something out of habit and stopped. Don't you throw signs at me, her mother yelled. Speak if you're a man. He is a man. One snapped, stepping between them, more than anyone in this room. Excuse me. Her mother narrowed her eyes. You heard me, One said, her voice sharp. Don't pretend you care about me. You're just looking for someone to blame because you can't stand that your precious little reputation got a stain. I lost weight, maybe because I'm finally free of your expectations, of Zeke's shouting, of being your puppet. Zeke stepped forward, furious. You are ungrateful, after all. We did for you. You did nothing for me, she shouted. You were never there when I cried myself to sleep. You didn't believe me when I said he leaked my photos. You called me names, you said I deserved this. Zeke grabbed Tim's collar suddenly. And this is the trash you married. One showed him hard. Don't touch him. Zeke stumbled back, stunned. She stood in front of Tim. Now, arms spread like a shield. You don't get to blame my husband for your sins. You don't get to walk into my life and point fingers like you weren't part of my hell. Her mother opened her mouth, but one snapped. You're pathetic, both of you. trying to justify what you did by putting it on him. He didn't break me, you did. He is innocent and pure as an angel. And he is the only one helping me build myself again. You are the trash here. You are all good for nothing, bloody pathetic people. She screamed at them. Zeke stepped forward again, but she grabbed his arm and pushed him towards the door. Get out. Zeke stumbled back. Wine's voice trembled, but her fire didn't falter. You want to control someone, do it in your own damn house. This is mine. She slammed the door shut with a bang that echoed through the walls. Silence. Then stood frozen, still clutching his collar. Wine turned slowly, trembling, breathing hard. Her anger was still fresh, but just heavy. Then her eyes met his, the concern, the disbelief, the awe. She stepped forward suddenly, quietly, and wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his chest. I'm sorry, she whispered, voice cracking. I'm sorry you saw that. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I'm sorry they said those things. He stood frozen for a second, taken off guard, but then gently. So gently he wrapped his arms around her, pressing his hand against her back. His fingers found her hair, stroking slowly. One sobbed softly, her voice muffled against his chest. You deserve someone kind, someone untouched, someone better, not someone who's been used like a toy. He quickly pulled back, placing a finger on her lips. Don't. His eyes backed. He raised his hands to gesture, but hesitated. I can understand, she whispered, brushing his hands gently. Try. He stared at her wide-eyed. Then he slowly began to sign. You shouldn't apologize for things you didn't do. You're not ruined. You're the one who deserves better. She took it in slowly, her lips trembled as she nodded, understanding, and whispered, You're precious. Tim stared at her. No one had ever said that to him. He had always been invisible, the servant, the quiet one, the voiceless. But here she was, calling him precious. He slowly smiled just a little, his fingers brushed her cheek, and for the first time there was no space between them. Not physically, not emotionally. One intertwined their fingers, staring into his eyes, hearts cautiously unlocking. Their silence wasn't awkward, it was full of understanding, of gentle feelings, of beginnings. Two broken souls quietly started to fit into each other. Not perfectly, not instantly, but beautifully. Thanks, Ken sat cross-legged on the bed, working quietly on Wine's laptop. He wore a soft cream sweatshirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, the faint hum of his breath mingling with the gentle tapping of keys. One side beside him leaned against the headboard, silently watching him. His side profile was carved like a sculpture, gentle brows, long lashes, brushing his cheeks. His lips slightly parted in focus. Without realizing, Wine leaned forward, her fingers twitched with a sudden yearning, and, as if guided by instinct, she reached out and threaded her fingers into his thick, soft hair. Tim froze, his eyes lifted, meeting hers. Their gazes locked. Time paused. Neither of them breathed. There were no words, just unspoken emotions swirling between them. Something tender, something raw. Then slowly Tim smiled, a soft, shy curl of his lips. He looked back at the screen, letting her hand linger in his hair for just a heartbeat. More before she pulled away, flustered, clearing her throat and pretending to steady the screen with forced concentration. Moments passed. She yawned and rested her chin on her palm, spinning a pen between her fingers as he worked. Then, stealing a glance, picked back the urge to lean over and press a kiss to her temple. Just then, the doorbell rang. I'll check. Wine said with a little stretch, waving him down, and went to open the door. Just as Wine opened the door, a soft voice began. There Wine's brows furrowed. In front of her stood a tall, elegant woman with long black hair and an air of familiarity. The woman's expression faltered, seeing Wine. Where's 𝐻𝐸𝐞𝐞? Wine narrowed her eyes. Who are you? But the woman barged in with an annoying smile, calling out, Hey, where are you? Ken stepped out surprised. Inara, he signed with a smile. Wine slammed the door shut, folding her arms tightly. Her blood boiled. Inara pointed at Wine. Who is she? Wine didn't hesitate. She strode forward, slipped her arm around Tim's, and said sweetly, I'm Wine, his wife. I assume you're Professor Tree's daughter, Inara. She leaned her head against his arm and offered a hand for a shake, daring Inara to challenge her. Inara's face paled. Married? She stuttered. They even... Tim signed slowly, softly. Wine's heart squeezed with the sincerity in his eyes. Inara blinked, then said, Isn't she the businessman's daughter? The one whose videos went viral? Your boss's daughter. Wine's body went cold. Tim instantly took her hand and squeezed it, rubbing gentle circles on the back of her palm. His support grounded her. Inara continued, clueless to the tension. Tim was about to sign, but Wine stopped him. Anyway, I'm here because we found a doctor. You might speak again, just one visit. That's enough, Wine interrupted, stepping forward, voice firm. If you were truly his friend, you'd accept him the way he is. He doesn't need fixing, not from you. And if he wanted, he would have found a doctor for himself. Inara blinked, then lowered her head. See her off. Wine said softly to him. He nodded, grateful. Wine walked to the bedroom, but the peace didn't last long. Her phone pinged. She picked it up, only to see Asher's message, a file, a picture, a cruel caption, "Don't forget our beautiful memories. The world will see it soon." Her face drained of blood, her blood turned to ice, her grip tightened. Then she snapped. The phone flew, smashing into the wall. She screamed, fury and shame pouring from her soul. She began throwing anything she could touch. Pillows, books, her own tears staining the chaos. "I'm resting. I should die. He used me. I was unconscious, and now he's sending me those pictures, those videos. He'll post them. No one will believe me. I should die before that happens." She mumbled like a maniac, scratching her hair. She reached for broken glass, but Thane caught her wrist. Don't do this," he rasped, his throat burned. His voice cracked, barely audible, but it was enough to still her. Her world paused. She stared. His voice, her trembling hands wrapped around his shirt, and she collapsed into his chest, sobbing. He wrapped his arms around her tightly, protectively. He stroked her hair as if to calm a storm and slumped to the floor with her against his chest. Minutes passed in silence until she calmed and sniffled. She stayed against his chest, hearing his heartbeat. After a few moments, she pulled away and whispered, Asher sent me those pictures and videos, threatening that he would post them. He raped me after knocking me unconscious. I didn't do anything." Her voice broke. Anger rushed through him, hearing it. He stared at her with a clenched jaw, and scooted away, murmuring, "I knew you must be disgusted by me. I'm so..." Then cupped her face, cutting her off with a kiss. It was firm, filled with passion, as if he was pouring everything he couldn't say into that moment. He held her jaw gently but firmly, tilting her face to deepen the kiss. Wine clung to him. When he finally pulled back, his lips barely moved. "Not your fault," he mouthed. "You're my wife. I'll protect you, I promise." Tears streaked down her cheeks as she hugged him tightly. "Thank you." He looked down at her, brushing her hair from her face. "I'm glad my parents arranged this," she whispered. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." Then smiled softly and brought her hand to his lips. She cupped his face. "You're a gem, thing. You're precious." He sighed. "You think I'm precious, but my family didn't. They sold me like a burden." Wine's eyes darkened. She kissed both his teary eyes. "They didn't deserve you." Then she asked, "Isn't the debt paid by now? Why are you still working for my father?" He signed. "Once my cybersecurity firm is ready to be launched, I'll leave." "You're so strong," she murmured, kissing his jaw. "And still so soft. You survived hell and now you're my peace." Then breath hissed. He gently lowered himself into her lap, laying his head, clutching her hand against his chest. One smiled through the egg in her heart and brushed his bangs back, whispering, "My handsome genius." His ears turned red. "You're blushing," she giggled. He opened one eye to glare teasingly, then signed, "You're the one to talk. You were jealous of Inara calling me that." One half leaning down and holding his cheeks, his lips into a pout. "She shouldn't call you that. It's my nickname for you, and she clearly liked you. Too bad you're mine now." His grin widened. She leaned back, but he grabbed her by the nape of her neck and stole a quick kiss. One laughed and kissed his forehead, her heart full. They weren't broken anymore. They were healing piece by piece, together. Time skip. The glow of the laptop screen illuminated Thame's sharp eyes as he tapped rapidly. Codes flooding the screen, his brows furrowed in concentration, jaw clenched, determination burning in his chest. Beside him, Wine sat in silence, watching him work, her chest tight with emotion. She reached out incautiously, brushing her fingers through his hair, drawing comfort from the soft strands. He paused only briefly to glance at her, a silent promise lingering in his gaze. Within the hour, every single one of the violating pictures and videos Asher had leaked was gone, scrubbed from the system as if they never existed. In their place, files filled with proof of Asher's crimes, blackmail, and other disgusting activities were uploaded anonymously and quickly picked up by social media. The world saw Asher for truly who he was. They also filed a legal case against him, defamation, harassment, digital abuse, and within 24 hours the warrant was out. Before Asher could escape, Thame had already hired people to capture him. Now Wine rested her head on Thame's shoulder as he closed the laptop. Soon he received a notification on his phone and Wine looked at him. He passed her a reassuring smile and held her hand. They both stood and walked out of the room. Thame opened the main door and a few men threw bruised Asher on their feet, blood dripping from his lips, hands pressed together in a useless plea. "I'm sorry, please, Wine. I was blinded by anger. I didn't mean to." A hard punch silenced him. His fists flew with fury, quiet and raw as rage crackled through him. The bruises blooming on his knuckles didn't deter him. Only when the sound of silence grew louder did he finally stop, standing over Asher like a fallen angel of justice. The cops arrived and cuffed the crying man without sympathy. One didn't look away once. Her hands trembled, her lips parted in a whisper of disbelief, but her gaze was not on Asher, it was on him. He turned to her, breathing heavily, the aftermath of fury melting into tenderness. She rushed to him, taking his bruised hands gently in hers. "You're hurt," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. He opened his mouth to say something but faltered, the rasp straining his throat too painful. So instead he let her take his hand, watched her bring it to her lips, and place soft kisses along his battered knuckles. "I don't even know how to thank you," she whispered, eyes glassy. "I can't believe I ever chose him." Then gently leaned down, brushing his lips against her temple. "There's nothing to be thanked." He rasped, his voice low and raw. "It was my responsibility." His gaze dropped to her outfit, a soft smile playing on his lips. "That's my hoodie and bandana." Wine grinned mischievously and without a second thought, leaped into his arms, wrapping her legs around his waist. Arms looped tightly around his neck. "You're mine," she said breathlessly, lips brushing against his ear. "So are these." A deep laugh rumbled through his chest, warm and melodic, and he tipped his head to steal a quick kiss from her lips. She giggled against his mouth and trailed kisses to his neck, making him flinch slightly with a rosy hue rising to his cheeks. "Wine," he warned, his voice still low, raspy but husky now, flustered. "You blushing again?" She teased, brushing her nose along his jaw. He narrowed his eyes playfully and spun her in his arms, making her laugh out loud. "You're dangerous," he mouthed it with a grin. She only smiled, nose scrunching up as he placed her hand on his chest, feeling the wild rhythm of his heartbeat. "I love this sound. It's my favorite music now." He slowly lowered her to the ground, only to pull her into a tighter hug, burying his face in her neck as he exhaled deeply. "I love you," he mouthed slowly against her skin, his voice barely audible but vibrating through her. Wine's eyes closed and she whispered back, "I love you too, Thea." Their foreheads met, breath mingling as their lips brushed once, twice, then fully met in a kiss that was gentle, loving, filled with everything they hadn't said in words. He cupped her cheek, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She leaned into his touch and smiled. "You're not just precious," she whispered. "You're everything." Then laid his forehead against hers again. His smile small but so real. "Forever," he muttered. "Forever," she replied, pulling him into another kiss, hands tangled in his hair while his arms wrapped around her waist, grounding her, anchoring her heart to his. The world outside could wait. It was only them, hearts healing, souls colliding, and love blooming like the first sunrise after a long, endless night. Few days later, time had passed since Theo exposed Asher to the world. The videos were gone, Asher was behind bars, and Wine had begun to reclaim her life with Theon by her side at every step. But peace wasn't something her family was willing to grant. They had learned everything. The media made sure of that. Asher's wild tactics, the truth behind the videos, and Theon's silent battle to protect Wine. These days, they have been trying to contact Wine, but she refused to see them. The other day, Theon met Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 to quit his job, but Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞's need, saying, "You still owe us." Theon placed a thick envelope on the desk, years worth of savings from odd jobs, sleepless nights, and sacrifices. Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞's eyes flickered, surprised at the moment. "This repays your debt," Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 scoffed. "Fine, but I want something more valuable now. Wine. You'll divorce her." Theon's jaw clenched. He shook his head defiantly, raising his hands in fluent French signs. "I love her, I won't leave her." He then walked away. Now Theon was standing in front of Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 again as they kidnapped Wine, forcing her to divorce Theon and marry someone of their status. "I'm asking you one last time to divorce Wine or not. I promise I'll set you free and give you a huge amount." He motioned towards the papers. Theon stood tall before him, calm yet firm, his silence sharper than any words. He shook his head with a clenched jaw. Fear erupted in Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞's eyes as he nodded. "You forced me to do this." He snapped his fingers, guards emerged surrounding Theon. Without a warning, fists flew. Theon took each hit without retaliation. His lips split, nose bled, and blood trickled from his temple, but still he didn't fall. "Sign the papers." Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 barked. Theon wiped blood from his mouth and signed. "Never." Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞's cold smile twisted. "Then suffer." The guards returned, this time with a hockey bat and a whip. The first crack of the whip and bat echoed in the mansion. They hit him without mercy. Theon went limp on the floor, bleeding, but then Wine's voice cut through the air like a scream in the silence of a grave. "Stop." She stormed into the hall, her eyes wide with horror and fury. Zeke and Mrs. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 right behind her. "Theon," she cried and sprinted forward, just in time to throw herself in front of him. "Get her away," Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 barked. Theon weakly tried to push her back. "Go." He rasped, his voice broken and fragile. "No," she sobbed, shielding him with her own body. The whip lashed again, striking her back. She beat back a scream. Again, another hit. "Stop it," Mrs. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 yelled. "Enough, get away, you crazy girl," Zeke shouted, his face pale with disbelief. The guards hesitated. Mr. 𝐏𝐞𝐞 stared at him, stunned. Wine trembled, holding him tightly. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," she whispered, cradling his face. Blood smeared across her skin. Zeke stepped forward and grabbed Wine's arm, harshly pulling her away. "I said get away from him," he barked. She shoved him, screaming, "Let me go." Zeke slapped her. The sound cracked through the air. "Zeke," Mrs. Ken gasped. Wine fell to the marble floor, her cheek red and stinging. Tham's world went white. He surged forward with a guttural growl, knocking Zeke down, fist rained on him as he cried out, "Don't touch my wife." The rasp of each word burning his throat. Guards yanked him off, pummeling him again. Wine tried to block them, but they beat her too. Then silence. Everyone froze. Blue and red lights flooded the windows. Mr. Kang's face twisted. "Who called them?" Wine, trembling, bloody and broken, smiled bitterly. "I did." The doors burst open. Police stormed in. "Mr. Kang, you're under arrest for kidnapping, assault and abuse," he balanced. "My lawyer, the arrest is based on your daughter's testimony and we have seen the footage," she said. Wine had started it the moment she was dragged into the house. She also stole the files of her father's dirty activities and sent them to Inar and Professor Chu, so they sent the cops. "No," Mr. Kang howled as handcuffs clicked into place. Zeke stood frozen, watching them drag his father away. Mrs. Kang wept at Wine's condition, but Wine didn't let her come near. Tham and Wine finally collapsed into each other's arms. She leaned into him, pressing her lips to his fingers with tearful affection. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I couldn't lose you." Tham's swollen eyes fluttered open. He lifted his hand, painfully slow and sighing. "I'm yours." She smiled through her tears, whispering, "You're mine." Paramedics rushed in, putting them on the stretcher. On the ambulance stretcher, Tham's fingers found hers, bloodied, bruised, but still warm, still holding. Time skipped. A faint beeping echoed in the sterile silence of the hospital room. Wine lay on her stomach, her breath shallow, her back and shoulders wrapped tightly in gauze and bandages. The sharp sting of pain pulsed with every tiny moment. She stirred slightly, her eyelashes fluttering open. Her vision was blurry. The white light above her burned her tired eyes. Her throat felt dry and raw as she tried to call out, "They," but all that came out was a hoarse whisper. Her chest rose and fell with effort. Muffled voices echoed just outside the door. Nurses, perhaps doctors. She couldn't make out the words. And then silence. A few hours passed. The pain still throbbed through her body, but the quiet warmth she felt near her side pulled her from her daze. She felt soft, warm lips brushing across her shoulder blade, feather-light, reverent kisses against the tender skin that was still healing beneath the bandages. Her breath hedged. She stirred, turning slightly on her side despite the dull ache. Her eyes fluttered open again, and this time they focused. And there Tham was, seated beside her, hunched forward, his beautiful face marred by precious cuts and bandages. A faint purple bloomed around his eye. A thick patch covered his temple. More bandages peeked through his hospital gown and shirt. Wine's eyes welled instantly. "Tham," she croaked, her voice fragile. He immediately leaned forward, cupping her cheek delicately, his thumb brushing away her tears before they could fall. She raised her hand weakly and cradled his face. "You're hurt," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. Tham's eyes shimmered. He leaned into her palm, pressing a soft kiss to the center of it, then leaned up and pressed another to the corner of her teary eyes. "No more tears," he murmured, his voice raspy and cracked, but laced with so much love it made her heart clench. She gave him a watery smile and nodded. He slowly climbed onto the hospital bed, careful not to jostle her injuries. She watched him with wide eyes, concern flickering. "There, you're injured." He shook his head, then raised his hands, slowly signing, "I'm fine, as long as you're in my arms." Wine's heart melted. She shifted carefully as he pulled her against him, her head resting on his strong chest, her hand clutching the front of his shirt. She could feel his heartbeat, steady, warm, alive. Her lips coasted over the bruise on his cheek. She placed soft, gentle kisses across his jaw, whispering between them, "I love you so much, Tham. You're worth more than anything in this world." His fingers gently brushed through her hair, resting at the nape of her neck. He signed with the slow strokes of his fingers on her back, even though she couldn't see it, just to soothe her. While leaned back slightly to look at him, the fingers slightly tracing the healing wound on his temple. "You have always been my protector, but I want to protect you now too," she whispered. He gave her a tired smile, then leaned in, brushing his lips against hers. Careful, slow, reverent. One kiss turned into another, then another. They lay in peaceful silence, tangled in each other's embrace. Her legs curling into his as best as she could manage. "I'll never leave you," she whispered against his lips. He nodded, holding her tighter. Arms gentle but firm, as if letting her go would break him. She leaned back slightly again, her fingers playing with the hair at the back of his neck. "Marry me again," she whispered, his brows furrowed. "I know we are already married," she smiled, "but I want to marry you again and again, every lifetime, every world." He stared at her, heart in his throat, and then slowly he lifted her left hand and kissed her ring finger, mouthing, "Forever." They stayed like that for hours, murmuring soft promises, exchanging kisses, brushing fingertips over scars and bandages, giving healing through touch, warmth and love. Once head rested on his chest, his hand running gently up and down her back, mindful of her wounds. I don't care what anyone says, she whispered sleepily. You're mine, only mine. Then let out a soft chuckle, his chest vibrating under her cheek. He signed with one hand. Only yours always. And as her eyes fluttered shut with his heartbeat echoing in her ears, Then pressed one last kiss to her temple, whispering in his gravelly voice, Rest, love, I have got you. Time skip. Months had passed since the hospital, since the chaos, since the pain, and now everything had changed. Wine had severed all ties with her family. She chose him over blood, over pride, over everything. And him, he married her again, just like she asked. Not for legality, but for love, for a fresh start. A small private wedding in a garden under a white arch of flowers, with nothing but wolves and trembling hands holding each other's hearts. Today, though, was another kind of milestone. Then stood tall at the podium, dressed in a sleek black suit, a small blue pin shaped like a keyhole on his lapel, the emblem of his new cybersecurity firm, 𝐊𝐿𝐿. And one stood proudly beside him, her hand linked with his. He looked like a dream, tall, poised, sacred and strong, a man who rose from ashes and dared to build a world with his own hands. The press, potential investors and tech reporters sat before them, cameras flashed, phones recorded. Then took a deep breath and stepped forward. He raised his hands, fingers moving swiftly, confidently signing his speech. One smiled and turned to the crowd, translating his every word with a clear, proud voice. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I never imagined I'd be standing here today, launching my own company. For most of my life, my voice wasn't heard, but today my silence has power. The audience was moved already. One glanced at him with shining eyes as she translated further. This film isn't just a business, it's a promise. A promise to protect, a promise to make the digital world safer for those who feel unheard, unseen, unprotected. They looked toward the crowd and his eyes locked on a proud older man standing with his hand on the shoulder of a young woman with kind eyes. One smiled as she followed his gaze and continued. I want to thank someone who changed my life, my professor, who believed in me when no one else did. So thank you. Your unwavering support kept me grounded. The professor looked like he was trying not to cry while Inara waved, and then tilted his body slightly toward Wine and began signing again, slower this time. Wine blinked, stunned by the words she was translating. And lastly, to the woman standing beside me, my strength, my voice, my home. Wine, thank you for translating my words to the world, but you are the only one who ever truly heard them. Thank you for marrying me again, even though you never had to. Thank you for choosing me again and again. This company might carry my name, but you are the one who gave me the courage to build it. Wine's voice cracked mid-sentence, but she didn't stop. She smiled widely through her tears as the room erupted in applause. Then took her hand and kissed the back of it gently before they stepped down from the stage. Reporters approached, questions flew, but he kept Wine close, one arm tucked firmly around her waist, protective, proud, until a man sneered from the crowd. Surprising what a mute thing can achieve. Or maybe it's just because he's got a mouthpiece in a pretty wife. Gasped, rippled, cameras turned, hands joke clenched, but before he could react, Wine spun around. Her voice sharp and fairy echoed through the hall. I'm nothing. He's more of a man than you'll ever be. He doesn't need a voice to be brilliant. And I'm not his mouthpiece, I'm his partner. So next time you want to insult someone, make sure you have got at least half the achievements he does, which I'm guessing is none. The man shrunk back, faced her with embarrassment. Applause broke out again. They looked at her with so much pride it made her stomach flip. But his gaze landed on her hand, holding the water bottle as she lifted it up, and he knew she's going to throw it at the man's head. He quickly took the water bottle from her and glared at him. He smiled. She then leaned down to take off her heel. He quickly walked her away. They slipped away into a quieter corner. One still fumed, arms crossed, muttering under her breath. The man started tilting his head with a questioning look. What? She snapped, pouting adorably. You didn't let me put my water or heel on him. I have been dying for that dramatic moment all my life. Then chuckled silently, shoulders shaking before pulling her into his arms, resting his chin on top of her head. I'm serious, she murmured into his chest. It would have been iconic. He raised his brows again as if to say, are you done? One sighed dramatically. Fine, you hugged me, so I forgive you. He smiled, pulling her even closer, but then her eyes sparkled mischievously. He noticed immediately. He leaned back suspiciously. What are you up to now? Wine motioned for him to come closer. He leaned in his ear, brushing her cheek. She cupped her mouth around his ear and whispered, I'm pregnant. Theum froze. He slowly leaned back, blinking at her. Her lips quirked up as she nodded. His eyes widened further. Then his lips parted in disbelief. And slowly, a dazzling boyish smile spread across his face. He cupped her cheeks, eyes misty, and kissed her forehead. But then his smile faded slightly. One frown. What's wrong? He sighed slowly, hesitantly. What if I am not enough? What if they are embarrassed to have a mere father like me? What if I can't give them everything they need? One grabbed his hand and placed it gently over her stomach. His hand trembled against her. She cupped his cheek, looking into his eyes. Theum, you have already given them everything they'll ever need. You'll be their hero, just like you're mine. His cheeks flushed bright red. One giggled. Why are you blushing? You're going to be a dad. He looked down shyly. She teased further, poking his cheek. Look at you, all tough and scary on stage, but one baby announcement and you're blushing like a schoolboy. Theum glared playfully and sighed, says the woman who cried during his speech. One gasped. I'll cry again if you keep kissing me. Theum smirked and whispered harshly, I dare you. One leaned forward and hid her face in his chest with that dramatic groan. You're impossible. And then he scooped her up in his arms. Theum, she squealed, clinging to his neck. He just smiled, eyes soft. She leaned in and pressed her lips against his, deep, passionate, full of everything. They were love, pain, joy, the past, the future. When they pulled away breathless, they stood their foreheads together, then signed against her belly. We love you already. One smiled, tears in her eyes. Forever, you, me, and our baby. No one else matters.